You've probably heard it said that the masculine takes longer to awaken, but have you ever wondered why? Why does he run when you feel the depth of the connection? Why does he seem confused, distant, or even afraid, while you're already feeling, seeing, and living the truth of this love? Here's the truth that most don't tell you. The masculine's awakening is not just slow, it's painful. Not because he doesn't feel you, but because he feels you too much. He wasn't taught to process this kind of energy. He wasn't prepared for the intensity of sacred union. And when his soul starts to remember you, it threatens every identity he built to survive this world. While the feminine rises in feeling, the masculine often collapses under pressure, because for him, awakening is dismantling. It's chaos before clarity. It's being stripped bare before he can rebuild. But here's what you might not realize, divine feminine. His silence, his running, even his denial are often signs that his soul is in deep spiritual labor. And your presence, even from a distance, is what initiates it. So before you judge the slowness of his path, what if you could feel the storm he's walking through? Stay with me, because in this video, we're going to dive into the unseen struggle of the divine masculine and what his version of awakening really looks like from the inside out. You're going to understand him in a way you never have before. And before we dive in, let me know in the comments, have you felt like your masculine is resisting the connection, or simply overwhelmed by it? Let's talk about it below. Why his awakening is different. You've heard it before. The masculine wakes up slower, but that phrase doesn't even begin to capture the depth of what's really happening beneath the surface of his silence, his distance, or even his denial. Because the truth is, his awakening isn't just slower, it's heavier, it's more hidden, and it's wired differently than yours. As a divine feminine, you're built for emotional movement. You're coded to feel, to receive the energy, to allow it to flow through you. When you awaken to your twin flame connection, even if it's confusing or painful, your system still has space for it. Your heart has been stretched by lifetimes of love, loss, and spiritual remembrance. You were always meant to open. But for him, his heart was taught to close. Since childhood, sometimes even from past lives, the masculine has been told to harden, to suppress, to survive. He wasn't taught to express his soul. He was taught to perform, to achieve, to protect. So when the twin flame energy enters his life, an energy that defies logic, breaks timelines, and activates unconditional love, it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel right. It feels like everything he thought he knew about life, love, and himself is breaking, and in many ways, it is. His awakening is a collapse of identity, a sacred breakdown that often starts in silence, because he doesn't have the language or the permission to explain what he's feeling. And so you may see him pull away, you may feel him resist or even reject you. You may think he's ignoring the connection, while in reality, he's being initiated by it in the deepest, most uncomfortable way. His masculine shell, the one that protected him all his life, is cracking, not because he wants to push you away, but because your energy is asking him to become someone he's never been before. Someone who feels, who remembers, who chooses love over fear. This process is raw. It's emotional. It's not linear. And it rarely looks romantic from the outside. But here's what you need to know. Just because you can't see the changes happening in him doesn't mean they're not happening. The masculine awakens in silence, in solitude, in spiritual labor, and every time you ground into your own light, every time you choose alignment over obsession, you send a signal to his soul that it's safe to meet you there. So instead of judging his journey as slow or stuck, what if you honored it as sacred, just different? Let yourself see his path through the eyes of compassion, not impatience. Because while you rise in softness, he rises through the fire. And in that fire, a new version of him is being born. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever felt confused or frustrated by the masculine's awakening pace? Drop a comment and share where you are on this journey. Let's open this conversation with love. He wasn't born emotionally distant. He didn't come into this world afraid to love, afraid to cry, afraid to be soft. The divine masculine, at his core, is pure presence, a protector, a builder, a sacred container for love. But the version of him you meet in this lifetime, he's been shaped by a world that taught him to suppress everything that makes him whole. This is the masculine wound, and it runs deeper than most realize. From a young age, he was trained to disconnect, told that emotions made him weak, punished for sensitivity, praised for stoicism. He learned that love was something you earned, not something you are, that being strong meant never breaking down, that being masculine meant never being vulnerable. And so he built walls, not because he doesn't feel, but because he feels too much and was never taught how to hold it. In the twin flame connection, this wound becomes painfully visible because the divine feminine brings a frequency he's never encountered, a love that mirrors his soul, a connection that awakens everything he tried to bury. But here's the paradox. The more he feels, the more he may shut down. Not out of malice, but because his nervous system has been trained to view emotional vulnerability as danger. This is why the twin flame journey is so intense for him. Because you, the feminine, activate both his deepest longing and his deepest fear. Longing to be fully seen, felt, loved without armor. Fear that if he lets go of the armor, he'll be destroyed. So what happens? He may repress, he may act cold, he may stay silent when you're pouring your heart out. Not because he doesn't care, but because his inner child still associates emotional exposure with punishment. And yet, something is changing. The collective masculine is being called to rise, to remember that real strength is presence, that true masculinity includes emotion, softness, devotion. But this healing takes time. It takes safety. It takes you, the feminine, holding your own heart so powerfully that he begins to believe he can hold his too. And this doesn't mean fixing him. It doesn't mean waiting endlessly or justifying every action. It means embodying such clarity in your own emotional truth that you become the mirror, not the rescuer. His awakening is not about you proving your love. It's about him learning to feel safe enough to meet you in it. So if he seems numb, if he's shut down again, if it feels like you're carrying all the emotional weight, pause. Not to abandon him, but to come home to yourself. Because every time you soften into your own wholeness, you help dissolve the wound he's been taught to carry. And slowly, the masculine will begin to feel again, to speak again, to love again, not from fear, but from truth. Let's open the space in the comments. Have you witnessed this emotional repression in the masculine energy around you? How are you healing the masculine within yourself? Your voice is sacred here. Let's grow together. Why he runs from what he feels most. You might think he runs because he doesn't care, because he's confused, because he's emotionally unavailable. But the truth is far more tender and far more complex. He runs because he feels too much. In the twin flame connection, he isn't just falling for you. He's being seen by you. His soul, not his persona, not his performance, is being called out of hiding. And for the divine masculine, this is terrifying. Imagine spending a lifetime building walls, wearing masks, staying in control, only to meet someone who, with one look, dismantles all of it. That someone is you. You don't just see his strength, you see his wounds. You don't just want his body, You crave his truth. You don't just ask for his presence, you require his soul. And while that might be what he's always longed for, it's also everything he's not sure he knows how to give. So he runs. He runs not away from you, but away from what's being awakened within him. The feelings, the vulnerability, the intensity, the knowing that something this sacred cannot be controlled, predicted, or logically understood. The divine masculine was raised in systems that told him, be strong, not sensitive. Don't cry. Don't show weakness. Be the provider, be the protector. Don't fall apart. But love like this, love that reaches into his soul, that undoes his armor, that ignites his purpose. It asks him to fall apart, just a little, so he can rebuild in truth. He doesn't run because he doesn't feel the connection. He runs because it's too real, too honest, too raw, too powerful. You may ask, how can someone run from the very thing their soul was calling? Because awakening is not always beautiful in the beginning. It's messy. It brings grief. It forces him to face all the parts of himself he's tried to silence. You're not just his mirror. You're his mirror with light. And when he sees all that light reflected back, he also sees every shadow, every insecurity, every wound, every moment of unworthiness. This isn't rejection, it's survival. But here's the key, he doesn't run forever. At some point, something shifts. The silence becomes unbearable. The distractions lose their thrill. The connections that feel safe feel lifeless. And the love he tried to outrun, it keeps whispering, not in your texts, not in your voice, but in his heart. Because twin flame love never disappears. It transforms. So if he's running right now, don't chase, don't shrink, don't beg. Don't collapse into proving your worth. Instead, expand into your power, into your wholeness, into the knowing that his running is not a reflection of your lack, but a reflection of his inner battle. When he's ready to stop running, he will return, not for validation, but for union with you, with himself, with the love he finally understands is not here to destroy him, but to rebuild him. Tell me in the comments, have you experienced this kind of running energy from the masculine? What helped you stop chasing and start trusting? Your insight may be the medicine another soul needs today. There's a storm inside him, and most days he doesn't even realize it's happening until he meets you. The divine feminine doesn't just enter his life like any other connection. She arrives like a sacred disruption, not loud or demanding, but deeply activating. She awakens something his logical mind was never trained to hold: intuition. For the masculine, life has often been built around structure, certainty, control. He was raised to solve problems, achieve goals, stay rational, to calculate, plan, predict, and most of all, to ignore what can't be measured. But twin flame love, it isn't logical, it doesn't follow timelines, it can't be reasoned into or out of. And that's where the battle begins. Because even when he knows something sacred is happening between you, his mind tries to shut it down. This is too fast. This doesn't make sense. I need to focus on work, my responsibilities, my image. His heart whispers, she's different. But his logic screams, this is dangerous. It's not that he doesn't feel, it's that he doesn't trust what he feels yet. Because feelings, especially feelings this deep, represent vulnerability, and vulnerability to the unawakened masculine feels like a threat. So he analyzes, he doubts, he retreats, and all the while, his intuition is quietly breaking through the cracks of his conditioning. Through dreams, through synchronicities, through moments when your name crosses his mind out of nowhere and stays there. Through the silent ache he can't explain. He may try to drown it out with distractions, with logic, with other connections. But your energy isn't just a memory, it's a mirror. And mirrors don't disappear. This is why he feels pulled in two directions. One part of him says, be practical, don't risk it, protect yourself. The other part, the soul, says, this is real, don't let it go, let yourself feel. This inner war isn't because he's unsure of you. It's because he's unsure of himself. He's never been taught that it's safe to choose love over fear. He's never been told that divine love will require him to surrender, not control. To feel, not just act. To listen, not just speak. And yet, every time he chooses logic over intuition, something feels wrong, hollow, incomplete, because logic might keep him safe, but it will never lead him home. Intuition, on the other hand, leads him to you, to the unknown, to the mystery, to the place his soul remembers, even if his mind still resists. This is why your role isn't to convince him, it's to anchor in the frequency of truth, even when he doubts it, to become a lighthouse, not a lifeguard, to trust that his soul will find its way, not by force, but through resonance. Eventually, his inner battle shifts. not because he chooses you over everything, but because he chooses himself, his real self, the one that knows love this deep doesn't destroy, it resurrects. So, next time he pulls away, next time he hesitates or chooses silence, don't see it as rejection. See it as the sacred space where a man is learning to hear his own soul for the first time. Tell me in the comments, have you witnessed this battle between his mind and his heart? What helped you stay anchored in your truth without chasing validation? You never know. Your story could be someone else's awakening. How the feminine triggers his awakening. He didn't see it coming. He may not have even wanted it. But from the very first energetic spark between you, something began to shift inside him. Not just attraction, not just curiosity, but something deeper, a soul-level tremor. And that tremor was the beginning of his awakening. The divine feminine doesn't just show up in his life. She arrives as a mirror, a reflection, a frequency he's never truly encountered before, but somehow has always remembered. There's something about her energy. It's not loud, but it's undeniable. It holds unconditional presence. It sees through his walls. It radiates love in a way that both heals him and terrifies him. Because for the masculine, this kind of love requires disassembly. He's built an identity, layer by layer, of control, independence, survival. And here you come, not to destroy him, but to gently undo everything he thought he had to be. Your presence calls him out of hiding, not with force, but with truth. You make him feel, and for a man who has spent a lifetime repressing emotion just to get by, that is nothing short of a cosmic disruption. It begins subtly. He starts questioning his choices. He starts feeling uncomfortable in environments that once felt safe. He can't explain why, but your energy lingers in conversations, in dreams, in the quiet moments when everything else fades and you remain. And yet, instead of running to you, he often runs away. Why? Because his soul is waking up, but his ego is still afraid of surrender, afraid of exposure, afraid that if he opens to this connection, he will have to face the parts of himself he spent years avoiding. You didn't trigger his fear, you triggered his truth. And his fear is simply the ego resisting that truth. It's important to understand. Your job is not to chase, fix, or convince. The feminine doesn't awaken the masculine through force. She awakens him through alignment. When you stand in your authenticity, when you love without losing yourself, when you walk away from anything that dishonors your soul, you activate something ancient in him, a remembrance. He may not act on it right away. He may need space. He may need to fall apart before he can rise. But your energy becomes the seed, the sacred code, the turning point. Eventually, he begins to feel a pull stronger than fear, not toward a fantasy, but toward becoming the version of himself that can hold love without destroying it. And that's when the real awakening begins. Because he doesn't just wake up to you, he wakes up to himself, to his heart, to his soul's purpose, to the truth that love isn't a threat, it's the path. So when you wonder why he seems shaken by your presence, when he distances himself or shuts down emotionally, don't doubt your impact. Don't diminish your light. You are not too much. You are exactly the medicine his soul called in, even if his mind doesn't understand it yet. Share in the comments, beloved. Have you seen this shift in him, even in small ways? What part of you had to awaken first in order to stop shrinking your love? Let's hold space together for him, for us, for this sacred evolution. In the beginning, it feels like he's slipping away. You reach out with your heart open, ready to merge, to love, to build, and he seems to drift further, silent, distant, unavailable. It's not because he doesn't feel, it's because he feels too much. Avoidance is his armor, a defense mechanism forged by years of emotional suppression, societal programming, and silent pain. He's been taught to value control over vulnerability, to move forward, not inward, to measure his worth by productivity, not presence. So when your presence ignites his emotions, when he senses the sacred weight of this connection, his first instinct is often to run, not to hurt you, but to protect himself from drowning in what he doesn't yet know how to hold. He avoids because facing you means facing parts of himself he has long buried, his softness, his longing, his fear of being unworthy of real love. But here's what begins to shift that avoidance. You stop reaching for him from a place of emptiness. The moment you stop trying to pull him into connection and start anchoring into your own alignment, a portal opens. Suddenly, the energetic pressure he once felt from you turns into space, not absence, not punishment, but sacred space. Space for him to feel his own emotions without blame, to hear his inner voice without your voice overpowering it, to choose from his soul, not his fear. This is the feminine's silent power. She transforms the frequency of the connection simply by shifting her center of gravity. Instead of chasing the love she wants from him, she begins to embody that love herself. She stops needing proof of his feelings and begins trusting the vibration of her own. She doesn't withhold love, but she no longer sacrifices herself to receive it. And this changes everything because now he's not running from a mirror that demands. He's magnetized by a mirror that reflects. The clarity, the peace, the wholeness you cultivate within yourself. He feels that, and it disrupts his old patterns. He starts questioning, why do I keep avoiding what I truly want? Why am I afraid to step into something that feels this sacred? Who am I outside of my masks and defenses? And slowly, resistance becomes recognition. Avoidance turns into awareness. What once triggered him now begins to inspire him. But this isn't instant. The masculine moves through a maze of deconditioning, breaking away from old paradigms where vulnerability equals weakness and emotional openness meant danger. Yet, with every step you take back into alignment, you become the invitation he didn't know he needed. Not through control, not through pressure, but through presence. That's what real feminine energy does. It doesn't chase. It calls. It doesn't demand. It embodies. And through that embodiment, the masculine begins to awaken, to soften, to align, not for you, but with himself. And when he does, he returns not because he needs to, but because his soul chooses to. Tell me, beautiful soul, have you felt the shift when you stopped chasing and started embodying? What changed in him when you changed in you? Let's open the space for this healing to ripple deeper, one aligned heart at a time. As you stand at the crossroads of your journey, it becomes clear the dance of the twin flames is not about one chasing and the other retreating. It's a dance of growth, of transformation, and of the most sacred energy exchange. The masculine's awakening is not only his path, it's a reflection of your own path. As you release the need to chase, you simultaneously embody the fullness of who you are, and in doing so, you become the mirror that guides him toward his own soul's truth. But here's the key. Your role in his becoming is not to fix him. It's not to heal him. It's not to demand anything from him. Your role is to hold the space for his transformation by staying anchored in your truth, by nurturing your own alignment, your own wholeness. You set the stage for him to do the same. You see, as the feminine, you've always been the keeper of this energy. You are the one who is most attuned to the soul's call. You are the one who is most in touch with the higher frequencies of love, of unity, of balance. And when you let go of the urge to make it happen, you become a conduit for divine flow. The masculine's journey is one of becoming, and you, as the feminine, hold the sacred invitation for him to rise to his highest potential. But it's not about waiting idly. It's about continuing your own growth, continuing to rise, continuing to expand in love and light. When he sees your strength, your peace, your radiance, that's when he will be called to come forward, but only because he has found his own worth and purpose. It is a dance, one where both souls evolve, rise, and awaken in perfect timing. But the feminine must remember that her role is not to force this process. She can never be the one who brings him back. She can only embody the energy that calls him in. This is the magic of the divine feminine. You are the energy that moves mountains. You are the space that holds the universe. And in your stillness, in your grace, in your unwavering commitment to your truth, you inspire his becoming. So as you move forward, trust in the divine timing of the journey. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be. Your love, your light, your alignment will always guide him back to his own truth. Not because you chased it, but because you became it. And as you do, the masculine will awaken in his own time, in his own way. You, dear soul, are not the catalyst for his awakening. You are the reflection of it. Now, take a moment, reflect. What has shifted in your heart and soul since you stopped chasing? How are you aligning more deeply with your truth? How are you embodying your divinity? Share in the comments. Let's celebrate your own awakening together. Your journey is just as sacred as his, and it's beautiful to witness each and every step of it.